Hello, welcome back to Out of Spec Bits, and we have a bit of a modification in store for today. So our friends over at Enhance Auto have sent this over. Now, they're not actually sponsoring this video. They sponsored us in the past, but they did send this just in case I wanted to try it out. And well, I do. This is the sexy knob. They, of course, make the sexy buttons, the sexy knob, and now the sexy stalks, which will be a future video, so stay tuned for that, for the Tesla Model 3, Model Y, etc. Notably, the Tesla Model 3 and Model Y, they got a lot of flack when they came out for having no buttons at all, really. I mean, Teslas in general are fairly minimalist, and not everyone appreciates that. And especially the newer stuff had no stalks at all. Of course, the new Model Y does add one stalk back in, but I today am going to be installing the sexy knob, adding back in some buttons and a knob, and we'll see how it makes the experience. Does it make it better or worse? Or the same? I don't know. Either way, I'm a nerd. I like having options, and so that's why I have been running sexy buttons, and I'm gonna at least try this out and see how well it works. All right, so quick unboxing, pretty easy. They do have pretty nice packaging over here. That is my unbiased true opinion. And the knob, of course, comes with the knob module, but also the commander. Now, interestingly, I don't need this because I already have a Gen 2 commander from my recent sexy buttons that I've installed, which that's a whole separate video actually over in Out of Spec Reviews, but now we have this channel up and running. That's where most of the stuff's gonna go. So this is the module itself. Pretty cool, pretty sleek. I will say the metal effect seems to match probably previous gen, like the early gen Model 3, not the original one, but the one when they updated the center console to look like this. So it slides in here, and I'll get to that in a second. But that's not quite a perfect match to this metal. Not a big deal in my opinion, but it could be if you're super OCD and not a big fan. They might have already addressed this by now, but I got this, relatively soon after this car came out, so maybe they've fixed that by then. It has two USB ports on the bottom. One that has a car icon, so that is where I guess this plugs into to go into the car for power. Then there's another USB port, which is actually really nice to have. So I have a cable here, plugging that in, and now my anchor cable is ready for any time I want to charge my phone. That is nice because notably the new Tesla Model 3 has no USB ports up here. There are these two wireless phone chargers, but no USB ports in here. There is one in here and there's two in the back. So I still have three USB ports to access if I want, but this is nice because it adds another level of connection, I guess. So this slides in here, and this actually goes in here, plugs into the cigarette lighter port down there. That's what will give power to this thing. You can see it light up right there. Unfortunately, I had already installed this just to make sure it worked and everything, so I already peeled the plastic off. Sorry to take that joy away from you, but really nice, clear. I think it's even an OLED screen, and that slides in here. Boom, just like that. It slides a little bit over the cup holders, and that allows for these to both still work. There we go. And I typically leave my cup holders open because I do use them quite a bit, but this way this closes. It also included this little rubber bit right here. I don't know if you can see that, but that allows for a, I guess, soft close function for this against that, and that way the metals, since they clash, they're not like right against each other. Minor thing, but worth noting. Now that it's booted up, it is there. So I will refer you to the video, which is linked down below, of the sexy buttons install, because that covers kind of how the commander is set up. But this basically interfaces with your car's existing CAN bus system, accessed over behind the door panel over there, right back in here. It's really easy to install. They have instructions, they have videos on that, so I'm not covering that today, but that's where this commander would come into play. So this knob, I think, does require the Gen 2 commander. It might only require Gen 1. I'm not entirely sure, but either way, check their website to confirm compatibility with your exact Tesla, but all I can say is in my Highland Model 3, it works, and it works great. So right here, how to use the knob, pretty easy, and it's really nice and tactile feel. Now there is actually a adjustment for having haptic feedback, like a vibration motor in this thing. Not a very good vibration motor. Like, phones you've had maybe over the years where it just sounded really not great and it didn't feel great when the vibration motor happened when you got like a notification. That's kind of how this was. So that's the first thing I turned off.
Yeah, it's like using an Android.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like having an Android vibration motor. No, so I turned that off, but that would only happen when you would move things and adjust things. And I think the actual feedback of the knob itself, it's just a really nice natural feel, and I just leave that alone. The intuitiveness of using this is very simple. And so I have actually found myself using it quite a bit. I wanted to test it out before filming this just so it's not only a first impressions, but actually like a full-fledged like, oh, here's how I feel about it. And I mostly use this screen, I will say, the very first screen. So I'll walk you through that. Initially it was set up to have rear vent control right here in the upper right corner, but of course in the Sexy app, you can actually adjust that. So let me open that here on my phone and I'll show you guys exactly how it looks. So this is the Sexy app. I also have a full breakdown of how this app looks in that other video linked below about the Sexy buttons. Nothing really changes other than the knob is now connected, and you can adjust various settings right here, such as what you want each corner to be and also the knob itself. So you can think of 3 pages of options, each page having up to 5 different controls. So it's 15 total controls you can save on this thing. That's pretty great. You can also set the brightness to be auto, custom, a brightness offset, turn off display and ambient light, haptic feedback, that's where I turn that off, and then you can show the knob screen in the app. Let's see, I have that off, but I guess I'll turn that on temporary just to see if that does anything. Not sure what that means. It did say beta, so maybe still working on that. And ambient light settings. So currently it seems that the actual ambient light under the knob, if you can see that, it actually matches the current ambient light I have set up in the car, which is the same color as the car. So it all is very cohesive in here. It's that kind of light pale green color. Anyways, I'll set that aside and just show you the knob itself. So tapping on the knob will access that control. Right now I do have it set to Celsius. And so I can set this, and that is the actual cabin temperature, which can be adjusted right here. And then you can tap again to go back. And then these 4 corners of the dial, which I know that makes no sense because it's a round object, doesn't have corners, but you understand what I mean. This relates to that, this relates to that, vice versa. So I have moved the volume control right here. So all I do while I'm driving, tap that and then move this to adjust the volume, and it still shows it on the screen right there. So it's not like it's hacking the car behind the scenes. It's still affecting something very obviously. Tapping the knob again lets you go back to something else, and then I find myself using these quite a bit. Turning the seat heat or cool on or off, and then just tapping back out of that. You can do the same. Timon, what would you like?
Cooled, please.
Cooled seat. It is a warm one out here.
Thank you, chauffeur.
You bet. Fan speed, there you go. Then we have the second page. That's actually my region settings. That's cruise control. This is like autopilot on and off, and this is the glove box. Boom.
Wow.
And so I'm sorry, you have to close it yourself. And then the third page right now is just, I'm guessing that's wiper settings. And then this is ambient light brightness, interior, like, what do you call these lights?
Dome lights.
Dome lights, yeah. Those are on and off right there. That's nice. And then the mirror folding. So just a few quick controls. I guess, like I said, 15 total controls that are easily accessible. Can
you do the same thing as like have track mode turn on and off with this, or is that only through the buttons?
I think so, but let me show you. So it advertises up to 60 different controls. So if I do tap, for example, let's go to battery preconditioning. That's one that I have set up, and then gear shift. So if I want to replace gear shift, I can replace it with any of those.
I mean, you don't have track mode because you have a base model, but
right, traction control. I do have drift mode, so I could set that.
Yeah, so then yes,
mode.
you should be able to put track mode on.
Yep. So yeah, so there's, oh wait, track mode. Well, that probably wouldn't apply to my car, but if you had a performance, yes, you could have a track mode button right there. So I think that's pretty cool. It kind of adds basically a bunch more buttons to your car in this otherwise super simplified car. And again, that's the reason a lot of people critique the Model 3 and Model Y. They're like, oh, it's too simple. Well, there are options to add buttons back in. Now it's making me rethink what my sexy button should be. I have one behind here, which I had previously set to climate control and dog mode. One right here where I had set to glove box, boom, and the front. I also have buttons on either side of the steering wheel, but these will be removed because I also have the stalks from Enhance Auto. That will be the next video coming up here some point in the channel. So, what do you think, Timon? Is that cool? Is that dumb?
It seems like you're adding way too many buttons for a car that doesn't need buttons.
Yeah, I will say I understand both. Like, yes, I have saved right here my seat controls, so I can tap in there and then tap cool, etc. But I just driving and having the buttons right here, I can do it without looking at the screen at all. So is this necessary? No, but
But you do look at the screen anyways because you're always on FSD. So
I do like having the option. So, and it's a nice looking dial. Like, it would be one thing.
yeah, no, it is. I mean, the ambient light matching up is super nice, and just the simplicity of it is that you can just even put your hotkeys basically just like in the middle and pressing it.
Yeah,
makes it super nice. I mean, I see use for it, especially for like someone like my parents or someone else that comes from a gas car that is used to all the buttons in the world.
Yep.
To something like this that doesn't have buttons is nice. I do think the stocks are so much nicer to have in the car.
Yeah.
I mean, I like my stocks, but I also forget sometimes when I get into a car, I'm like, where are the stocks? Where are they?
Right, exactly. So I'm excited to live with this for a bit longer. I mean, those really are most of my thoughts. It's intuitive, it was easy to install, it worked just fine. Initially it didn't actually pair with the Commander, but I had to just, I think I had to unplug, no, I just had to unplug this and then replug it back in. I had to like basically boot loop this thing to make it actually work. So it wasn't quite plug and play, but it normally would be and should be. So I may have had some sort of glitch. I don't really know.
Right, and if it doesn't work in that case, I don't know if there's a hard reset on this, but there's definitely a hard reset on the Commander itself. That's always something worth trying if it doesn't work.
Yeah, so I think that's what the solution was. But yeah, let us know what you think of the sexy knob. I think it's pretty cool. I don't feel like I need it, but also I'm absolutely going to run it because I also like having this new USB port, which is actually pretty high power. It charges my phone at full speed, which these wireless chargers do not. So that is nice, especially for us who are always filming with our phones and draining the battery like crazy. So I'll be running it. No plans to not run it. I do wish the metal matched, but maybe they'll have that fixed and updated by now. Either way, I'll link it below if you guys are interested, and we'll see you in another bit of info very soon.